And welcome to Nerd Stalker. I am Adolfo Ferranda at Nerd Stalker on Twitter, at A Ferranda on Twitter. I never check that one. And with my co-host and buddy,
Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg on Twitter for Nerd Stalker. Hey, how you doing, Adolfo? Happy Labor Day weekend.
Happy Labor Day weekend to you as well. Yeah, it's going to get scorching hot here in Marin County. We have a heat alert and a lot of crazy stuff going on right now in the news, depending on when you're watching and listening to this. There's Houston is underwater, right? Which is like super insane.
Yeah, it was amazing week for that, wasn't it? Just an amazing week.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to transition to happier things,
business
and productivity.
Yeah, let's talk about that, man. You know what motivated me to kind of talk to you today about this was I got an email from SCORE, which is kind of an organization that supports small businesses and mentors people. And they came out with this infographic that had like online collaboration tools for small businesses. And, some of the stats that like kind of came through, and we'll talk about this because I want to get your take on it. And I guess we're going to give our take on what are the tools that we like for collaboration and for online.
Yeah, I'll bring up this one.
And interesting that they said that small business owners, some of the popular tools are like file sharing. That makes sense. Instant messaging, audio conferencing, web conferencing, video chat, and stream-based messaging, which the last four or five I tend to lump in one category. But, maybe let's talk about some of those things you like for maybe file sharing. Let's start with that.
Well, first off, looking at this infographic, isn't that crazy that like the number of people or small businesses that have no plan to use? That's nuts. File sharing 25%, instant messaging 32%. You see the numbers here. Audio conferencing 39%, web conferencing 40%. That's nuts.
Yeah, how do you not do it, right?
I guess depending what kind of business you are, it may or may not, apply to your particular day-to-day, but still, it's kind of strange. I don't know.
No, I mean, if you look at the whole category of like 30, you're over 1/3 that's not even using it currently, right?
Right. Well, what's weird, is a lot of these depending on the business are using it. So what's interesting, the stream-based messaging.
Yeah, I guess maybe for some of the brick and mortars, do they need to file share? It's interesting. Just recently, the company I work for just started sharing schedules online as a file sharing, right? But they didn't do that for a long time. So what we used to do is get these emails file when we're working and all that stuff, right? It's crazy, right?
Right.
And
well, to bounce, what I was going to say, to bounce around, what me and Greg were talking about earlier is even the notion of telephone, right? Like a traditional sort of telephone, and how antiquated that idea is. And I know my mom still, very recently was calling our family in South America, and she would get these little calling cards things where for super cheap, actually, they're quite cheap now. And, but they're still, a amount of money and for X amount of minutes, and that whole business model still exists.
And people are still making money on it.
Yeah, which is crazy until I introduced her to text messaging, for instance. So now she texts for free to family, and and they also do online calls as well. But
I think one thing we got to remember is that there's a good part of the world still on flip phones.
Yeah, a great deal. Yeah, a great deal of people.
I thought about this the other day when this whole thing kind of came up, and I was discussing this with you online, that, we're very spoiled here, right? And almost kind of arrogant about certain things. And I think like, how do people not have a smartphone or, that type of thing, right? I think that way. And then I look at the data from Southeast Asia, and, a majority still has just flip phones.
Right. I'm not so much that as like if you do have a smartphone, you should really be utilizing it as to the as far as you can, or if you do have access to any of this kind of technology, we're here to let you know that you can leverage it.
Absolutely. I mean, you just got me, I guess, just recently, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, about some of the productivity tools that we use for just collaborating, right? Like Twist and Slack, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
So
getting into that, Greg,
let's do it.
Let's start with one that that we all know quite well, and that is Slack. Right.
Yes.
So this is probably the darling of businesses right now, especially within the startup community and everything. I will bring up their little dealy here, weird website here. Slack. So, Greg, tell me how you're leveraging Slack and how you've seen it leveraged and how you hear people are leveraging it.
Yeah, if you go to most of the I would call collaboration tools like Slack, Twist, Slack. We used it. I've used it on 2 or 3 startups, and it's great for really, I would call, messaging that's important. Of course, you could just send a text message, but it doesn't really bin it into any category or save it, or save a conversation. With Slack and a lot of the other tools, it allows you to actually put a thread together that you could keep a thought or ideas of collaboration in one area. You could even share files on Google Drive in Slack as well, or link to them. Mm-hmm. So I found that's been a very convenient mode of collaborating for us. What about you?
Yeah. Slack is really interesting because what's so weird about it to me is that it's such a almost trivial technology in a way from a developer standpoint. We've seen this back with Google Wave. I would argue that Google Wave was actually even more robust and kind of feature rich and stuff than Slack, but Slack somehow really caught on and seemed to resonate with the community at whole. And as we see here, I just want to get into pricing real quick. As of this recording, here's their page. There's a free version, which is quite limited in terms of feature and stuff like that, what you can do. And then there's a standard version with this roughly, almost $7 a month. And then a plus, something called the plus version, which is, about $12 a month, something like that. For businesses that need SSO, compliance exports, and guaranteed uptime on a single Slack team. But yeah, as you said, it's, for whatever reason, it's caught on. Great UI, UX. It's fun. It seems like it's got a fun sort of irreverent UI to it as well. And I think people gravitate towards that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely found a really important area where emails should not be treading, in my opinion. So it's for that, I'm very thankful for this type of business solution.
Yeah, I think what I found kind of interesting is the ability to do direct messaging or thread everything, right? Which all the tools really have. Like you said, I think I haven't used it because I stuck to all the free versions, to be completely honest. I don't know of how I would utilize the other options in the mode I'm working on. I'm more marketing. We're not sharing a lot of development files, and if we're sharing files, it's all mock-ups or conceptual, which is very easy to share through PNG, JPEG files or PDF files. So I don't have a need to really go any deeper than that when I'm collaborating. But how do you use it in your development environment, or how would you use a tool like this in your development environment?
Well, what I've seen the benefit of, mainly of paying for it, oddly enough, is that you get a longer history. Right. So if you have a direct message with someone, you're limited to X amount of time, which isn't very long. And if you have a group, that space that they give you, allocate for the free version, goes pretty quickly. So again, there's a ton of people that are using Slack free. They are, there are, like yourself, Greg, and others. But for some companies, it's important to have that type of history for whatever reasons, auditing reasons or whatever, if you may. And then also another thing we should mention too is it has a very elegant integration with a lot. I mean, since they were so early to market and got such widespread adoption so early. I brought up on the screen here, you see all of these developers that have all kinds of bots and analytics and all kinds of different type of technology that leverage that interplays with it via API, as well. So whatever cloud services, it tends to play with everyone really. So there's that. That's what makes it so. It's kind of almost like the Microsoft Office of this space right now, in that it's like been adopted by everyone right now. But there are a ton of competitors to this space right now, which are doing it for even less of a cost than what they provide. But then you got to remember that not only within teams and within companies, but I'm starting to see some companies leverage Slack with other companies and other type of possible customers. I know there's a couple services I use, and they're offering Slack channels for their customers, for support or just like announcing features and things like that in various channels. So I've subscribed to their channels to do that kind of thing as well. So it's become this sort of also a marketing type of vertical as well, or channel as well, I should say, and a support channel, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you brought up cross collaboration between companies, because that's happening more and more, obviously. I mean, it's always happened in a way. And 37 Signals was the first one I could see that I've used in a collaboration environment that had cross collaboration tools where you could actually invite someone from outside your group, share files, like a client, and then discuss it online. So
especially via a cloud solution, via a SaaS solution. Yeah,
exactly. And I think the 37 Signals ones was the first one that I saw that I've used personally, that I saw, kind of the future was unwinding. And then what Slack kind of brought to the I feel was the mobile solution,
right?
And the 37 Signals really never embraced that very well with their solution, and it was always kind of desktop web based, right?
Right.
And I think Slack, in my opinion, was that they made it to mobile first, and they got adopted.
That being said, Basecamp, everyone is still around. A lot of people are using it.
Absolutely.
It tends to be a different type of thing, more of a project management tool, more so than what sort of Slack is. But let's talk about its purpose, sort of, or its place in lieu of why use Slack versus email.
Oh, sure. Well, obviously, threading is one that I can think of, Adolfo, right? Ability to group a thread together where, the Google Mail does a great job of it.
Of threading, I was about to say that.
Right, it has done a better job in recent years after they redesigned the user interface.
Sure. But it's not siloed, is the thing in these channels. So I mean, you get a mix of these different threads together.
Yeah, but what I've noticed, I don't know, I would like to hear your opinion on this, but I noticed in these new collaboration tools, especially, it's almost like a gun in a baby's hand. I still haven't found. There has to be still a process around it where the people put the right things in the right thread.
Right.
I don't know how to solve that.
True. It seems like it needs to be one of those things too. Like, I think email is one of those things where someone has to read it. Like, if I'm sending you an email, I really need you to read it. As opposed, if it's Slack, pardon me, it may or may not be the case. Oftentimes you get these email replies if you do a group email, for instance, and it's to one person, you're CCing a bunch of people, and then suddenly you get a reply, all thanks, you know what I mean, or something like that. It's like, that's where something like it would be better suited in Slack, I think, something like that, because then it doesn't impose on me, fill up my inbox, something that is a critical tool for business and work, and for my daily productivity.
I love this topic that you're talking about of a collaboration tool that's mobile in the cloud versus email, because I still think email is very relevant.
It's essential, for sure.
Right? And essential. For sure. And I'm not sure exactly. You brought up a very good point earlier about cross collaboration between other companies. Email was, I think, that glue, right?
Right.
Where people from outside your organization could reach you without, too much hassle. It's common and everyone has it. So to bring someone into this more closed environment is an interesting debate, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, how that's happening too. Yeah, it's really cool too how the essential tools seem to stick, too, like, or the essential technologies, like you said, like email, right? We can skin the UI of email a million different ways over the years, and now we're at what is Google, basically Gmail now, right? Versus like the early days of whatever email was. And but it's still email in the end, right? And we're still using it in the ways to help us get through our day and be productive, whereas something like a Slack is that type of technology, and it's sort of infancy right now, in serious business right now. And I'm interested to see now what its progression will be. We've seen things with obviously integration with other cloud hosting type of services and other types of applications and stuff, and how it's becoming sort of this I don't know if a platform is really the right thing to say, but it's definitely an essential sort of spot, a hub, a stopping point, a lily pad in the cloud, if you will, to get your work done.
And I've seen people make attempts at trying to merge the email into those worlds. The Basecamp was one example, right? Is that if they used to have a push notification on email, and then if you apply back to the email, it'll automatically get threaded into the conversation on Basecamp, right? And I thought that was kind of cool, but it was a little bit clunky. I'll be honest with you, because you can't see the thread on email if it's a Basecamp conversation. So you still have to go to Basecamp. So it was a great way to quickly reply to something, like if there was a process where in project management that you had to approve something or something like that, and you're away from your desktop, but you had your mobile, you could just reply on email and then agree to it or whatever. But it was still clunky because I couldn't see the whole conversation going down. I had to go to different email inbox locations to find it, right?
Yeah. Very cool, man. So let's talk about this other thing that I know nothing about that I would love to talk to you about. It's called Hightail.
Oh, yeah. So what was very clunky about, I do a lot of video work, for our channel and other channels, right? And the files are very huge. And we're talking gigabytes. And the solution from Google Drive doesn't work because you're limited to 30 gigabytes. Sometimes I'll shoot something that is easily 60 gigabytes. Right. No kidding. And even if we compress it down to, and this is a MOV file, right? If you go to MP4, then it's definitely more compressed, right? But I got turned on to Hightail because we were interacting with NBC 11 Bay Area, and they wanted some footage from our festival for the news. And the only way to get it to them without getting to their, I would call, firewalled server that's deep down, that you had to almost FTP it almost, they decided to adopt Hightail, and that's how I got onto that. And what Hightail allows you to do is create different collaboration spaces for video. So it's really, I call a video collaboration tool, less than a direct collaboration tool. And what you could do, actually, I found what's very cool is that once I upload the video, people could comment on different times within the video to say, hey, I like this segment, I don't like this segment. So it became a great video collaboration tool, and I've used it a couple ways that way, and pretty successful. I haven't seen anything like that. People talk about Lightroom for images, right? To kind of use metadata to kind of sort things and to find things. But in terms of collaboration, Hightail is kind of my go-to for video.
Wow, it looks really slick. Yeah, we're looking at the site right now. We got on the screen. Let's look at their pricing.
And so I pay, I think, $100 for the standard one, and that gives me, pretty much unlimited space and
unlimited projects, 3 team members. Yeah, for that. Yeah, unlimited storage and file sharing. Yeah, that's excellent because, as we both know, I mean, video files, they are massive massive files.
Relatively, right, compared to the compressed PDFs and audio files, right?
Yeah, for sure, man.
So Hightail is my go-to. There's other ones I've seen.
Yeah, there's a few of these for sure.
Yeah, but definitely I recommend. Social Greg recommends Hightail.
Fascinating. Very cool. That was a good one, Greg.
Yeah.
What else do we got here?
What do you? Well, I guess besides we're talking about collaboration, but what about file sharing for you, Adolfo? What has been your go-to?
Oh man, there's so many. So let's see. One of them, let's talk about it, is Younity, right? A lot of people don't know about this, but it's been around for quite some time. Let's get it up on the screen here.
Boom. I know the Younity game engine.
Younity, right. So what's really cool about Younity is that you install it on your phone, your computer at home, or what have you. And this one really is, I should say, it's file sharing within your own sort of little mini cloud, if you will. So for me, this is really helpful for things like maybe I have a movie on my server at home, on my computer. It's kind of an old school thinking approach, sort of, and I want to stream it and watch it on my phone. Younity allows you to do that for free, effectively, right? They do have a premium option now, but that's what it does. So you download it onto your various devices, your computer, the app on your iPad or your iPhone, and you have a personal cloud. It's really fantastic. And it's not only for like playing and streaming services, it's also files as well. As you see here, they focus on video, music, and photos. So here's the example of where, like the phone option, where you can look through your nice collection of movies or photos. And what's really cool about it, it's your collection on whatever device. You can share them all. So if you have photos on your phone, conversely, I can look at them on my computer or my iPad, right? And if I have videos on my iPad, conversely, I can watch them stream them on my phone or my computer, even though it's on my iPad. So it's a really remarkable service. And not only that, what's so cool about it, so here's if you're going unlimited, right? And these pricing, $5 a month if you're doing this kind of unlimited type of thing, is that the quality is really fast and really good. And that's always a concern, right, for this type of thing, especially when you're streaming movies or something like that. Then it's that's a really neat thing to have if you're looking at your family photos, or if you've downloaded a legal movie or something like that. Then it's a really neat thing to see. Let's look at let's see.
How did you come across this? This is pretty interesting.
This was years ago. I think I discovered them and I shouldn't say discovered them. I think I saw them at a SF New Tech possibly. Way back when. And it used to be totally free for years. They were actually acquired, I think, by some larger company. And so I got to use this for free for years, and it works remarkably well. And I'm always shocked how under the radar they were, because it works just so darn well. So check it out. If you want like a personal cloud, basically, Younity is really, really good.
Wow, that's cool, Adolfo. Yeah.
So that's one of them, Younity. And another one that we can talk about, which is really quite good that everyone knows, or maybe not, is Backblaze, which is traditionally known for having like a backup solution, which I use, and I think a majority of a lot of people use on the consumer level as well as enterprise level, but especially at consumer level. It works fantastic, by the way. Well, they rolled out something which is sort of a competitor to AWS, Amazon Web Services, an online sort of cloud storage option, and it's even cheaper than Amazon, which is remarkable. Whoa. And it's called B2. So Gleb Budman, another friend of SF New Tech, who we met years and years ago, has started this remarkable company, Backblaze, and they rolled out this awesome service called B2 Cloud Storage. And when you sign up, I am a Backblaze customer, so I got sort of, grandfathered into this B2 solution, which is amazing. So as you can see here, this is the pricing model, right? And they show from Google Cloud, Azure S3, Amazon S3, I should say, which is their cloud storing solution, and Backblaze's B2 solution. You can see the pricing here is 0.005 cents per month. What? And to download, it's 2 cents per gigabyte, which is massive, right? So it's a remarkable it's really a no-brainer. If you're doing any type of like cloud storage, you want to be using B2. So if this is really helpful if you want to do like huge amounts of like video or whatever, a complete backup or storage you want to do in the cloud. B2 is the way to go. And then but that being said, you got to be aware that right now it's so early days. The front end is very rough, right? So it's really primarily geared at this point towards the developer and maybe app developer or something like that who needs to host those type of things onto their service, and they can do it via the terminal or via some quasi complicated front end. They seem to be getting better and better by the day, because I think they have a sense that the consumer is going to want this, and they'll be able to scale out this whole thing pretty soon. So I use this, and you can also share now too, but it's super technical. It's super feature rich. So as you can see, it's a bit geeky at this point, and to use it. And so, it's right now, it seems to be sort of geared towards the developer and the really geeked out type of individual, who wants to play with this kind of stuff. But for the price, and if you don't mind getting your hands dirty, it's a must.
God, it's so cheap. It's kind of like that open source streaming software that all the gamers use, right? It's very clunky, but it's it's free, So
yeah,
this thing's almost free.
Yeah.
Most part. Wow, that's cool.
But until they get that slick front end, sort of like what Hightail, whatever, which they don't provide any of that type of feature rich. It's a simple upload download kind of thing at this point. It is what it is, but for the price, you're really getting your dollar's worth.
And then you use let's go back to the darling that we've met at another one that we met at SF New Tech, Evernote.
Yes, Evernote.
Oh my gosh. Do you still use it at all?
Yes, okay. Very much so. So Evernote's a must for me. It's my go-to. I had tons of them. I know people were freaking out about it, raising their prices or changing their. Well, actually, they had a free model that a lot of people were using, and then they started charging, and people got upset about that because they started limiting the free version down more. That may have been a mistake from a PR perspective, but it's a business that has to. It has to be a business, a functioning business.
Have to pay for this, right?
But there's a ton of like really good competitors out there. I know there's OneNote. People are using that.
Yep.
Google Keep. There's Bear now, which is quite popular as well, or sort of the new craze that the kids are kooky about. But a lot of people are falling back to Evernote, especially people that have used it, because it is so feature rich, so powerful. And for those of us who've really invested a lot of time into things like the search capability is amazing. The OCR capability is fantastic automatically. The photo and document capturing scanning ability is incredible, especially with this integration with everything, really. Every application tends to integrate with Evernote one way or another. And if not, Evernote provides a link, to whatever, if you want. To a particular service or a person, if you want to share a file of whatever type of file type that you so wish. So it is such a Swiss Army knife of the web. It's an absolute must, in my opinion, for everyone. That's one of the first things that I install. I'll install like a Dashlane, which is a password provider service type of thing, something like 1Password or whatever your password of choice, and then Evernote. Evernote's my sort of cloud storage note-taking application du jour, if you will.
Oh, that's great. No, Evernote, they were one of the first companies that really promoted integration. It looked like, they had a lot of momentum in the early days. And we're talking like 2000. Well, you met them way back in 2007. Was that right?
Yeah, somewhere back then. Yeah, way back when.
And, I got more involved with them at 2010. And what impressed me at that point, and this is 7 years ago, believe it or not, it was the ability to integrate, like you said, and the ability to use different tools that I was using on the web. Of course, mobile still wasn't really coming along yet, but at least web-based.
One thing is that, Greg, there. Oh, you froze up for a bit. Now you're back.
Oh, sorry about that.
So what were you saying?
What I liked about Evernote was, again, the integration back in 2010 with other services that I used, right? So I'm able to quickly put notes up that I was thinking about an article, things that I thought that was kind of cool, but I wanted to kind of put it in the back burner and come back to it later, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I thought Evernote was great to that. I just don't use it as much anymore.
Right.
Not like you do, but
yeah, I definitely rely on it quite extensively. It's like my repository, my resource, my dumping ground. Ideas I place into there. I journal in it. I have a whole folder from my kid's art, right, from her years of growing up. So those goofy little drawings that she's done when she was a little kid to like where she is now years later, to see that transition.
That's cool.
Show notes, our show notes I keep in there as we're doing them. Note taking, obviously. I could go on and on with that scanning. As I said, I use a whatever Scanner Plus or Scannable on my phone, and then it goes directly into Evernote because it has a direct integration.
For keeping track of receipts, that's a great thing, actually.
Yeah, receipts, parking stubs when I park my car or whatever, or location of where I parked my car. I mean, I could go on. And in conjunction with, something like my productivity tool of choice, Todoist, it's a no-brainer because then I can have my resource link into Todoist go directly to Evernote, and then I have all the resources I need for a particular task or project.
Now, the main one that I use, going back to this file sharing thing, which is I think the greatest that people have used, according to that infographic, is Google Drive.
Yeah.
Google Drive. I think what makes Google Drive for me usable is the dumb, what I call Microsoft Word spreadsheet and forms that they integrated into their service. So it makes file creation and file sharing very easy, right?
Right. And I'm going to take Greg to court for not putting his phone on silent, by the way, people. Sorry about that. True consummate professional. Greg Valoria, everyone. Let's hear it for Greg.
Sorry. I just
knock your block off after this show.
I'm using my phone to actually look at our show notes.
If people see Greg with two black eyes on the streets of San Francisco, just know that he
hanging from the rafters.
Effigy
hanging from the rafters. And what about Dropbox, my friend? I mean, let's call it Google Drive and Dropbox.
Google Drive, man, because Google Drive is a very, I tried Evernote with my family, particularly my wife, and it didn't really work. It kept for her the links that I would think I'm sharing a note, and then it would require opening up in an application. Sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it require a password, that kind of thing. So there was a little bit of friction in terms of the user experience sometimes with sharing certain things.
Was it user experience and
early on? I mean, it's a lot better now, but Google Drive right out of the gate has been so elegant. You know what I mean? Is the thing.
Believe it or not. Huh?
Yeah, go figure, right? It's so user friendly because it's just like it's an Explorer or folder structure on your computer. It's very there's no sort of cerebral hurdle in terms of its sort of paradigm, right? There's folders, there's things in the folder, and then sharing it to it is super easy, especially if you have a Google account, right?
Yeah, email.
Whatever it may be. And the collaboration with from again pulling in the technology from Google Wave, right? The Google Doc real-time editing collaboration technology that they did get from Google Wave is fantastic as well. And it works just like Word, where you can see all the track changes and the whole deal, with the notes. Incredibly powerful. But that's the Drive itself is really slick. But there's a cost to it too as well. So who wants to pay for all these different subscriptions? So I with Drive only use the free version, and I tend to put as much as I can to Evernote since I'm paying for Evernote happily.
Right.
What about you?
Well, Google Drive definitely is my go-to file collaboration tool, I would say, in terms of non-video files, doc files, spreadsheets, the forms. They make it easy, though the forms are still limited. And don't get me wrong, all the MS Office like features are very limited still, right? Though they've added a lot, they're still limited. So if you're just doing some basic stuff, like probably most people out there, it's perfectly fine. I think recently, not recently, but within the last few years, they really made it easy integration with their email, of course. And so hitting the Google Drive button in your email to save it or download directly is so easy.
It's so easy. Yeah.
So freaking easy. Yeah. So it is my go-to for non-video files and collaboration and sharing. The one thing I do like, because it's cloud-based, is the ability to go to different revs. How many times that you blew up something that like, and you had to go back to a different rev. Well, at least I do. Adolfo is perfect. Everyone,
he doesn't, and it is super ubiquitous. I think most of these hosting services are very ubiquitous in that they have an app for every type of device. They work on every OS, if not the obviously the cloud itself being a web page functionality. So there's no real limitation there for any of them, really.
So let's move to another file collaboration tool, since we're on this one. We're beating this to death, which is probably should be the final one, Dropbox.
Dropbox, yeah. I mean, that's the granddaddy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's, because they were so early out of the gate to get it right, it seemed like, or as close to right at that time as possible, that a lot of, especially businesses, sort of gravitated towards it initially. And they gained a lot of ground there, but it's not, early on, it still was rather a bit complicated as well, because a lot of the sharing features were kind of hidden. People weren't sure, why is it syncing on all of my devices, taking up all this space for everything that we're collaborating on. And even now, having to sort of manage the sharing on each particular device for whatever folder is a bit cumbersome as well. Your thoughts on Dropbox, Greg?
I'm still amazed how many people still say, "Hey, I'm going to Dropbox this thing to you," and I'll admit, I'm still one of those people, because they hooked me early. I'm still paying for the freaking thing.
Yeah. So, I see you as a power user of this, not me so much. I never really deeply got into it like you did.
Well, I'm practical like you, Adolfo, is that if I'm paying for something, I'm going to darn well use it.
Right.
I've been trying to figure out, and now that you've mentioned Backblaze to me, I think now I have another path to take some of these archival files and move them off. And that will probably kill it for Dropbox for me. I don't need it at that point, since I've been using a Hightail and Google Drive. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. It was great when it came out, because it was just it was kind of easy to use, and it was kind of the first cloud-based file sharing system that was usable. Yeah. Like you said. So, but I'm surprised at how many people still say, "Hey, I'm going to Dropbox you." I said, "No, don't."
Yeah, they are everywhere. Yeah.
So anyway, I think we killed file sharing.
File sharing, yes, to death there, which is really good, by the way. So
let's talk about something that is near and dear to our heart: audio, web, and video conferencing.
Right. So, I mean, you got to talk about the gorilla in the room, right? So, Google Hangouts, right? For us, especially, it's such good integration with YouTube for the general podcaster that I'm amazed not everyone is using. A great deal of people are using it, but I still from time to time hear people saying, "I'm going to Skype you, I'm going to Skype you, I'm going to Skype you." And I think that feels like one of those sort of just traditional things that people sort of like Word or Office, like we've been mentioning today, something that no one really particularly loves, but everyone's been using it for so long, and they've gained such traction and adoption for all these years that people just use it because they know it, right? And they're comfortable with it. But Hangouts, we've seen all these different iterations of it. It's fairly easy to use, although YouTube seems to be changing the interface on us every now and then. And its integration with YouTube is sort of a no-brainer for us. Your thoughts on Hangouts?
Hangouts, I thought was great. I remember that we interviewed what was it, Guy Yamasaki, right?
Guy
And he was
Kawasaki.
like, Guy Kawasaki. Sorry, Yamasaki. Guy Kawasaki, and he was a big Google Plus fan, right? And in fact, he wrote a whole book on that, which eventually died because he couldn't do anything with it. But what came out of that was really also Google Hangouts at the same time. And what recently I like about Google Hangouts is, again, what you had said, this easy integration to YouTube, but also the integration into the calendar feature.
Fascinating.
Where you could just set up a video conference in the actual invite, and then there's your link. It's basically Hangouts, and away you go. You could have a video conference with someone else, miles away or whatever, or not in the same room. So that's been something that for team collaboration I've used more of recently, but I think we'll get to another one that I wanted to share with you, which is a peer I am. And
but let's talk about that real quick with Hangouts, Greg. Is that you mentioned team collaboration? We see in this photo right here of the Google Hangouts little page right there. You see the people below. It's literally that easy for people to join, and that's what's cool. It's not simply a one-on-one thing. It's like you can have multiple people on a Google Hangout, which is a really neat type of feature, where you can do almost like a webinar, basically.
Yeah, and I've done webinars where they had a nice feature where I've done a few webinars, and what you could do is set up chats on the side box, and so they could ask questions. So it's basically webinar-esque.
Right.
Though when they switched over to YouTube Live, they killed a lot of these what I call open apps that were integrated into Hangouts. If you notice, they're slowly coming back. I noticed, but when that first switch over happened, they killed a lot of it.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, I really missed my lower third. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're slowly figuring it out again, because now they're reattaching a lot of these things. But there was also that kind of like blurred background feature we use a lot on our podcast.
Yeah.
In Hangouts.
But what's amazing is how much does this cost, Greg?
Oh, totally free.
Free, right? So
so what are we complaining about?
you get all of this easy to use thing, and this is something that I'm surprised more businesses aren't leveraging, as well. I think there's some learning curve there. I think for a lot of these small businesses, in order to get their sort of YouTube pages together. But man, you record one of these and it's automatically boom on your page, and then you have access to your customers. They have access to all this knowledge or whatever that you're providing, that you can provide via this type of technology.
Yeah, and I was so surprised when I looked at that, going back to an infographic where they kind of bend audio conferencing, web conferencing, and webinars kind of separately. And I don't know how you feel, but I see that as ubiquitous, right? It's all the same to me, right?
Right.
It isn't. I don't think
I
of
agree.
a tool anymore as just an audio conferencing tool like Skype used to be, right? And I don't think of Google as just a video conferencing tool like it used to be, right? It's all the same to me, right? It's how do I want to communicate with someone, and if I'll go to audio if I don't have enough bandwidth, essentially.
Yeah, we can turn off the camera, and then suddenly we have an audio conferencing tool,
right? But I don't think of them as separate anymore. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Right there is that. This whole segmentation of those things are kind of weird to me, and I don't know. Well, so what besides Hangouts, what other sort of technologies have you fiddled with?
Well, let's talk about that one I just mentioned. That one of the startups I'm involved with is a Peer IN. So Peer IN? we were using Skype for the longest time with my one of my co-founders in Japan, and I don't know why. I just, maybe because I have such a soft spot for Microsoft, I just keep on going back to it. But, it always disappoints me in the end.
Right.
It's like that bad relationship that you think, oh, there's a lot of good in them, but they just disappoint you in the end, right? And then you just have to dump it. So we finally dumped Skype because it was just connection issues, just like in the past, clunky. My connection didn't change. So why was my Google Hangout smooth where my Skype connection was choppy, right? All that stuff. So my co-founder in Japan introduced me to a Peer IN. And what I liked about it, actually, it's a permanent link. So it's almost kind of like I would call a link to a consolidated Hangout that you could use forever. And so if you just want, it's kind of like a permanent phone number. If you wanted to share this link with someone, you could just put it in the calendar. And if you need to talk to someone on a Sunday night, you don't have to schedule it like Hangouts. You just click on that link and it's there forever. And as long as that other person is online, then you could connect, obviously, right? You can't talk to yourself. So from a collaboration tool, it's a great tool. From a tool like for webinars and what we're doing podcasting, I think Google Hangouts still the best. But as far as just a connection, simple, not a lot of bells and whistles. Peter IN was just amazing. He introduced me to. So it's one of my low-end recommendations. If you wanted just something low-tech and you just wanted to collaborate with people online, it's one of my kind of now new favorites.
Oh, very cool, man. So another thing that we should bring up too is like, there's the other sort of standbys is that some people are using, and actually some business, and I know they are themselves, it's Facebook, right? So Facebook's using Facebook messaging within their company as well. I know Facebook video, Facebook phone calls. I know I've been getting prompted to do Facebook video calls from people. So it's actually being used quite extensively. Your thoughts on that, Greg?
Yeah, I've like, if someone is a Facebook friend of mine and I'm in the company, what happens a lot, I'm not as technical as Adolfo is on the back end stuff. So what happens a lot in our company is that we're a remote facility, but the server's somewhere else type of thing, right? But we do have a rack in our building. It's a spaghetti nest. I don't know where anything is. I didn't set it up. So what I have to do is the IT guy and I are friends on Facebook. So we just do a Facebook video messenger and just kind of like bring our phones up and say, okay, is this the rack? Where's the wire coming out of there? Another one we use is FaceTime. That's another one you could use if you have Apple, right? But in terms of a generic product, Facebook Messenger seems to be the one that I could use to kind of like, rove around with my mobile, kind of troubleshoot something. That's what I've used it for.
Interesting, yeah.
As well as maybe some personal communication. And that's kind of somewhat limited. I think like a real personal conversation, like someone I know in Japan, hey, let's get on the video. Let's talk for a little bit. I'll use Facebook Messenger. Definitely it is my what I would call text tool, I guess, with friends that are pretty close to me. Though what was always frustrating me, and they finally got rid of it, where they would say, do you want to use Facebook Messenger as your go-to text tool? And I never wanted that. I wanted kind of those worlds separated.
Right.
So it used to always frustrate me when they sent me a push notification. Do you want to use it as your, your default text tool? I was like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
And you and I, we from time to time will use the just standard text messaging, right, to do it there. But Facebook Messenger seems to be a good personal communications tool. How about you? What do you use Facebook Messenger for?
Oh man, same thing. Only for people who want to use it with me. Otherwise, I don't like to use it because there's just too many of this. Like I have one friend who uses Twitter messaging, and she's the only one, man. But it's a good friend, close friend, so I have to use it for her, right? Additionally, what I see are a lot of kids using, as you mentioned, FaceTime, right? So they're using that a lot while they're gaming, and then at the same time they're FaceTiming each other, right? I see that a lot. Not so much for business. I don't see FaceTime being utilized a lot. So yeah, I don't know. So my messaging tool of choice is really Messages, built into iOS, and I really think that's the primary killer app on iOS, really, because it's not yet available for other users on other platforms, Android or otherwise. And to be on a group message in Messages is sort of like you're missing out if you're not on that, because I tried that once when I was on my Android and it didn't show up correctly and I was all out of context. So yeah, I mean, Messages is important there, but for business, it's messaging. It's like Slack right now. Slack is my messaging sort of
Yeah, between Slack and I guess on the professional side, then at Nerd Stalker we use Twist, right?
Yeah, yeah, and Twist as well. Yeah. But another really interesting sort of weird foray, or perhaps a future look into messaging, is Alexa itself. Oops, the Echo word. I shouldn't have said the A word. Sorry, everyone out there. I'll call it Echo Dot. I'll call it the Echo. So Alexa has, geez, I just did it again. They've released calling and messaging functionality. So let's see if we can.
Yeah, tell me more about that. You were an early adopter of Alexa, so.
Yeah. Here it is. Should never drink buttered coffee before a podcast. All right, so here it is. So the Echo Dot calling messaging service, you can do all the stuff on it, calling messaging. They had a clunky rollout where you could put out your phone number and email address into the device. The thing is, you could type in any old phone number into the device. So I could have put anyone's with my account and associated it, and I did that. I accidentally put my mom's phone number into a device. I think I might have been one of the first people to discover this bug right when they rolled it out. Their support team was stumped. They had to roll me up to like some of the serious developers, and they discovered this. And like the next day, there was like all the PR and news about the horrible rollout of this service. I think they're working on it quickly. Obviously, they're iterating. This is something super new. So effectively, what you could do is say something, hey, device, right? Echo, leave a message for my mom, and then say your message, whatever. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. And then when she gets home or she's near her device, it'll tell her she has a message, or it'll be blinking a certain color. And then she says for it to play, and it'll hear my voicemail, right? So it's effectively a voicemail on on this type of device. Additionally, now I think they're offering some sort of interroom, sort of like intercom type of service as well. But here you go. You can do these calls. So I guess you can do live calls as well. I'm not sure.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Now go back to the bug. I wasn't quite sure. What was the bug by putting your mom's phone number in there?
Well, okay. So you could put in any phone number. So you could put any other person's phone number as long as you have your username and account, right? Mm-hmm. So like you could type anyone's phone number and then you own their phone number, right? But the problem with that is that you can't put your own phone number anymore because the device is already connected to a particular phone number. So that's the scenario that I'm in, and where I still need to get that fixed. So I have to unlock her device from the phone number I put in, unlock my device so that I can get my phone number back in it. So it's this big sort of quagmire that they just didn't really think through, which was a little bit surprising and not surprising on Amazon's part, because they tend to roll out really rough things and iterate, and that's a very sort of Silicon Valley type of approach.
Agile approach.
Yeah, even though they are from Seattle, I shouldn't say Silicon Valley techie. So,
techie approach, agile approach. Let's get something out there quickly and then discover the bugs along the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great though. I think I liked hearing the Echo Dot Alexa stories you have, because if you don't know, Adolfo's released many things about the Alexa. You can go back to some of our old stories on Nerd Stalker, and he was very. I remember coming over to your house and you showed me the Alexa, and I was just like, I was blown away.
I knew like voice is just such an interesting space, and it obviously has legs when you see the likes of Google and Apple, scrambling to get in on this.
Did they develop recently? To kind of getting off the topic, the Sonos killer, where you could actually have different music in the room if you have a Echo or a Dot or Echo or Alexa?
So you can now play in multiple rooms. Yeah, you can, but ironically, but their speaker has never been on par with the Sonos per se, right? Because Sonos is a speaker, but now Sonos is also, I think they've announced officially, if not unofficially, they are going to come out with a competitor to an Echo and HomePod and Google Home. Although, boy, do they have a mountain to climb. How are they going to compete against those three companies?
Oh, they're not partnering like with Apple or
They are. So
Google?
They're still open to, for instance, I can play my Amazon Music via my Echo into my Sonos, right? Mm-hmm. But actually, no, I don't do that. I do that via the app. No, so there is an integration that I know of at that point on that level.
Wow.
But yeah. Wow. So Sonos has to get into this space, otherwise the model is not very, their business model is not very forward looking. But anyways, to get back into this type of
any last thoughts on the auto web video conferencing?
Yeah, so there's one last one that I love, and it's called Loom. And I think I've mentioned these guys before. They're at useloom.com, useloom.com. So we're going to wrap it up here. Boom. So what I love about Loom is, I don't know if you guys, there's a really wonderful application. God, I always forget it too when I want to mention it. It's a screen capturing application. It's the biggest one out there. It's like $100, right? Effectively. And everyone uses it's very full featured, very powerful. But Loom does, if all you need to do is sort of capture an application or a video of you using something or something within your browser or a video application on your device, then Loom is just wonderful, and it's free. So all you have to do is get refer one person to use it now, and you get full access to its full features. And what you can do is you just click via Chrome or whatever your device is or your browser of choice, and it starts recording. I think it only works with Chrome at this point, I believe, because I think it's a Chrome plugin. And then it records whatever's on your thing. It'll record video of you and your audio, or you can mute yourself, and whatever section you want to record, you can record that, and you can automatically share it. You can download the videos so you can upload to YouTube or not. They host it as well if you choose to do that. So here's sort of the referral sort of plan that you do. They are rolling out a premium feature pretty soon, which we don't know. They have yet to sort of announce what it is, but it's remarkable. Highly recommended. The team is very quick to iterate, super easy to use. It's a Google plugin. I can just start capturing a video and share it. Again, this is great in business. Like, you can do video emails. They have integration with Gmail now, so that you can do within your email. You just click it, boom, and then you just leave basically a video email, and then you can send it via Gmail to them, and they just play it. And there's no download since it's all streaming. It's almost a stream, is what it is. And it works really elegantly. And there's also integration into Trello with it. They're integrating with everyone. They have this really nice API, so everyone's sort of plugging into it as well. So they can plug into Slack as well with it too. If you want to leave your Slack messages via Loom, via a video, you can do that. So it's very, very robust. So I highly recommend businesses, if they want to save some money, use it. It's very slick and quick.
That's cool. That's a great tip. You always have a lot of these great little, I would call startup features that you've used that you could share with the audience. That's so neat.
All right, my man. So winding up, that was kind of the productivity show for small businesses in terms of essential tools that they need for this type of stuff.
Oh, are we missing one more thing?
What is it?
Scheduling?
Yeah, okay. I was going to leave that one. I'll slap it in. So scheduling, the one that I like, which is the free version, is fantastic, although they do have a premium model if you want to do some whitelisting or what do they call it? Not whitelisting. So it doesn't show the Meetingbird stuff.
Oh, I see.
Look like your company, labeling, excuse me.
White label.
Yeah, is Meetingbird. They're pretty incredible. And let's share the application here, or what they... Yeah, so check them out. So it's a Chrome extension, and it integrates with your Google Calendar really great. So you got to be a Google user to use this if you're a small business that uses this. I know a lot of small businesses now are going with the Google Office solution or whatever it is called now.
Yeah.
And for Google Calendar, meeting scheduling has been a huge challenge for people, and Meetingbird does a wonderful time of allowing you to sort of block certain times for your person to choose from. You can set it up, customize it for you. You could say what works, what doesn't work, all kinds of things, and it can send them all kinds of sort of follow-up information. And they have the AI is really good. These guys are talk about iterating quickly too. Meetingbird, incredible. They have integration with Gmail, so right within your Gmail you can see your Meetingbird or Gmail calendar. I mean Google Calendar as well, and you can do all kinds of really neat things like add different maps and time zones and all kinds of stuff. Very feature rich, very essential. I think, tool for any business that needs to schedule meetings.
That's cool.
With everyone. So definitely check them out. It's free. The free version is remarkable. Meetingbird.
Wow.
Let's see what you get for the pricing.
And you integrate with Google Calendar, which is really cool. I mean,
yeah, it's really great.
I mean, I like Google Calendar, but I agree with you. I think the challenge was always making sure that your multiple, I would call, profiles on Google were interlinked somehow, so that different calendars for different Gmail profile was always transferable, so you're not over scheduling something, right?
And so that's the thing. Yeah, so it obviously leverages multiple calendars if you have that in Google Calendars. Greg said as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you.
Great solution.
This was a great show, man. I appreciate it. And for Labor Day weekend,
I think it was the best one we've ever did. Ever. We win. We won the internet today. We won the podcast award.
Today.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for voting us greatest podcast of the day. We really appreciate it. And my name is Adolfo Ferranda at Nerd Stalker on Twitter. You can get more information from us at nerdstalker.com, Nerd Stalker TV on YouTube. Subscribe and watch these videos that I'm pointing to above. If you're listening, ignore that and just give us the old thumbs up or 5 stars in iTunes or whatever your podcast player of choice is. Check us out. We really appreciate you listening and watching. And Greg, where can we get more information about you?
Oh man, you could reach me on Twitter at socialgreg, and you could also reach me at socialgreg@nerdstalker.com. So feel free to reach out. Just like Adolfo said, if you like this video, press the like button. We always appreciate it. And if you like the whole channel, subscribe to it. It's free.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening and watching out there.
Thank you.